FIDE Master John Curtis here. Welcome to my channel, and I just got a little Christmas game for you. Just did a little bit of research, and I was having a look at a book that Grandmaster Rogers had given me. It's called 50 Moves. It's got Grandmaster Anton Smirnov on the cover. There he is. And I found this interesting game. It's a game by Levon Aronian, 2,799, playing the white pieces against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Hope I pronounced that right. And it was played in Tblisi in the World Cup in 2017. So let's have a look at the game. I'm using the chess.com analysis board to present the game to you. So d4 is played. Knight to f6, c4, g6. Now this is an interesting move. There we go, f3. Now the whole idea of this move is to play e4 and get a commanding centre. Get something like a same-ish type of game going. And encouraging black to play d5, but beginners would play d5. I don't think black would play d5, would he? We'll soon find out. Anyway, after f3 comes c5. So white's commanding the white squares. You can see there. After e4 is played, of course, you can see the white square coverage. Now black's countering on the black squares. It's a logical consequence of white's last move, d5 and d6. And you've got to remember, these two players, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Levon Aronian, they are both super Grandmasters. I've actually spelt Levon Aronian's name incorrectly. I've got Aronian, but it's actually Levon Aronian, A-R-O-N-I-A-N. Just see if you see the name on the white pieces there, you'll know that there's a small spelling error. I'll try to correct it now. How's that? There we go, it's corrected. Okay, so you don't have to tell me about that little error. Knight to c3, e6 is played. Notice he doesn't fit in shadow. You would think, but he wants to attack that centre straight away. e6. e4 is played. That was the idea behind f3. And now bishop g7. Notice he doesn't capture the pawn on d5 straight away. Bishop to g7. And then white plays knight to e2. And you think, oh, well, what's the idea of that? Well, the knight's got several ideas. One could be maybe a g4 and knight to g3 and a h4, h5 idea. It's a bit slow. The other one, the knight might go to f4, so if the pawn's captured, it can recapture just simply with the knight. The two knights would interconnect, and that'd be a strong position. Anyway, we'll just see what happened. Knight g5 to e2. It says white's system aims to hold back on developing the c1 bishop until black has committed his h-pawn, right? So in other words, white's asking for black to commit the h-pawn, right? Well, omitting queen to do d2 for as long as possible. Okay, so that's the idea of it. Castles. And now knight to g3, and you can see white's just got a solid game, and he's saying, well, it's not. I've got a spatial advantage, only a slight one, but I'm not going to press forwards. I'm just going to build up my pieces first, and then if you let me do what I want to do, I'll just slowly crush you. Right? So, but it's not easy for black to break out, right? So black just quietly plays a6. So in other words, he might be able to create a break with b5, but to undermine this pawn structure here on the wing, we'll just see what takes place. But he plays a6. Now white stops him. You can see that coming, you see. So he plays a4. So now the pawn to b5 can't be played because the pawn takes pawn. You can't recapture because of rook takes rook. Right? Okay. I'm trying to make this simple for the beginners in my stream. Right? So a4. Now black plays h5. Okay, so he wants to limit this attack on the king side by white because he doesn't want to be attacked on both sides of the board and be stretched out, you know, like his defence is stretched out on both sides. So h5. Apparently the main line, this is all theory, the main line goes e takes d5, right? C takes, recaptures, and knight on the b file to d7. So that's the main line. So this is all theory up to this point. So, but these two fellas would be well aware of all this. Bishop to g5. So now he can commit his bishop there to that square. And now the queen just slips over here, queen to c7. And that gives black the option of playing knight here, chasing the bishop away. Just an option in some variations, depending, of course, on what white does. So queen to c7, white just simply plays queen to d2, right? And he's hiding behind his massive pawn wall, right? Sometimes in these positions you see a pawn takes pawn, pawn takes, pawn here and knight there and knight here, threatening knight there. But it's so many moves ahead that, and white being such a high caliber player, it's not it. He won't let you play all those moves. He's got a few moves in between himself, so black has to tread very, very warily. Anyway, but he does. He plays e takes, d5, probably hoping for c takes, and he does. He recaptures with the c pawn. And now knight h7. Remember, I did suggest that move. Not that I'm a super grandmaster, but I could see that one coming. It says here, Vachier-Lagrave also seeks to delay a natural move. Knight in the b file to d7. There you go. For as long as possible. But then walks into a stunning preparation by the great Aronian. Aronian, the super grandmaster. Right. For instance, if bishop to h6, oh, knight to h7, there you go. Oh, there you go. So, knight to h7. What happened then? For knight to h7, black plays. You can't have two moves in a row. Bishop to h6. h4. There we go. Bishop takes g7. King takes g7. Now, you can see in this position, this is where the action is, in this little block here. It's where that king is, but it seems to be fairly safe for the moment. Maxime's king. But obviously, Levon Aronian, he's got some ideas on that king side. Now here, you can see the knight's on prise. But to hell with it. He plays this move, bishop to c4. And you'd think, well, hold on a minute. Surely you can't just give up a knight like that. If you're a super grandmaster, you might be able to. Merry Christmas. Maybe something's coming. Anyway, Maxime says, well, I'll take it. Gives me a chance to win, doesn't it? If I don't take it, well, not much chance of winning. White recaptures. Now straight away, look at this big check down there. Now, you can see G4 might have been a better defence, I'm not sure. Oh, look at this. If you play G4 to defend, I'll show you what happens. Right? This is very clever, this sacrifice. Right? If you play pawn here, if black played pawn there, what would you play if you were white? Yes, you take the knight with check, that's right. Right, so if the pawn goes here, rook takes knight check. Can you imagine that one in your mind? Now, king recaptures, okay. Then queen takes pawn, okay. And then you can't stop castles. And then, oops, you can't stop castles. And then this rook here would checkmate that king. I'm pretty sure of it. I think he'd sacrifice. And then there'd be no defence. The king would be naked. So you can't play pawn there. So what does he do? Well, he plays, because he's still got to stop this terrible big check, okay? Now, he can't play knight here because queen checks and queen mates, okay? So there's only one move. Rook to h8. You see, so Maxime has looked into all this. And now have a look what white plays next. I'll give you a chance. See if you can find the move, the next move for white. White's given up a piece, mind you, for this position. Now, what move would you play in this position if you were white? Well, if you thought of queen checks, you were wrong. That's right. He actually pushed his pawn forwards. He actually wants to get another piece working in the position. Just very simply, he wants to check, but he wants that knight to be able to come up to e4. Is that clever? Can you see why? And now you can see the point of bishop here earlier. If the pawn takes the pawn, this pawn has the option of going forwards as well. Right? So white's building in a huge attack for this piece that he's given away. This is extremely clever stuff and great preparation on the part of Levon Aronian. I think he's well known for his chess preparation. So this is all, I'd say all this is prepared line. Queen to e7 is played. And I'll give you a chance to see if you can find the next move. What would white play next? It's very hard to find some of these moves. Well, I'll give you a hint, right? It's not check again, right? Because that's too obvious, isn't it? Now, we've already made a square for the knight to come into the attack, okay? Right, so we've got that piece there. And we do know that these two pieces are not in the game. The castle and the knight. They're not in the game. So what's the next plan? The next plan is to castle. That's right. So we're bringing another castle into the attack. Right? Okay, so now black recognises what white's up to. Now, white could take a pawn off, but if you take that pawn off, maybe pawn forwards is too strong, right? Okay. Now, again, you wouldn't want to play queen check here because it doesn't do much, right? And there's always the threat that black might play queen checks and change queens. The endgame would be very favourable for black. Black would love to get the endgame, right? Of course, you can't play queen here and change queens now, because of pawn to hit bishop 4. Okay? And that would just give more momentum to white's attack. Okay? So black plays knight to d7. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Mention his name. After all, he is a good player. He's got a very romantic name, hasn't he? I love his name. You can thank his parents for that. Knight to d7. That looks like the natural move. If I was trying to defend this position, I'd play that too. But I don't think I could defend this position against the mighty Levon Aronian. Yeah, this does say queen takes e5 loses to rook to d1. So if that knight's not played there, imagine the knight being back on e8. If you played queen takes pawn, rook on the d file to e1, attacks the queen, right, followed by queen to h6 check wins. Okay? Because obviously there's a rook check down the back, rook takes rook, and then the queen on h6 would capture there and it'd be all over. It'd be a mess. See, all the white pieces are beautifully placed, poised for the kill, right? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when you go fishing, and I don't know about over in the United States or other countries, but we've got these fish called, what do you call them? Anyway, what they do is as the tide goes in and out, they ambush. They ambush all the little fish, right? Flathead, that's what they're called. They're called flathead, these fish. You can look them up on Google, have a look at a picture of a flathead. Not a pretty looking fish, but beautiful to eat. Anyway, knight to d7. And now, e takes d6. Okay? He obviously wants to force, white wants to force to push the pawns. Or, if the queen comes forward, he wants to bring the knight in with tempos to attack. And black recaptures the pawn. It says, only now did Maxime Vachier-Lagrave start to think seriously, but he's already under severe time pressure. Well, severe pressure anyway. I don't know about time pressure. I added time pressure. But time is of importance, but is under severe pressure anyway. Knight to e4. In comes that extra piece that, remember, the great Levon Aronian, he sacrificed a piece to get this position, so he wants to get something for his piece. Queen to e5. Okay. And now, just a simple move, d6. See? Notice he doesn't go for the check again. He doesn't seem to be very interested in the check. So he plays d6. He's interested in getting his pieces working on maximum squares, right? d6. Right? Okay, so that's what he's after. He wants his pieces on the most effective squares possible. And now, g5 is played, and it says, looks bad, and it is bad, but Vachier-Lagrave was tired of the threat of queen to h6. So he's been looking at this queen check all the time. He says, I don't like that check. It's very annoying. I'm getting sick of looking at it. So I'm going to try to stop it. But in actual fact, this move here is a bad move. Right? Now, it does say that the knight on the d file to f8 would hang on. So if he played knight here, he could just hang into the position a little bit longer. But my goodness gracious, he's all tied up, isn't he? But he could hang on to the position with that move. So knight there was the correct move. And yes, he did do the correct move earlier. We did say he had to bring his knight in to develop his queen side. We pointed out the rook and the knight here weren't working, but he just failed to see that that was the next best move. Okay. And of course, the knight is blocking his bishop, So it's a logical move, knight there, isn't it? Because it clears his bishop, right? And, of course, his rook. Right? Anyway, he played pawn to g5. And now comes this big move, rook on. This rook that's been threatening that check no longer needs that check. He plays rook to e1. So he changes tactics and he goes back towards the centre. Okay? So now what's he threatening? Well, he might be threatening a big f4, eh? And smashing apart that king. Black plays b5. Black wants to get some real activity. So he says, all right, well, maybe if you take the pawn off, I can recapture with the pawn and get my rook down here with a check. Try to eliminate a few pieces. And because I'm a piece up, I will win. That's what he's thinking. And white just slips the bishop into the middle of the board and says, watch out for your castle, mate. No, I'm not going to open up the a file. And then Maxime just plays rook b8. Okay. Well, when I'm playing through this game, I've got a memory of another Maxime I know, Maxime Bowden from Switzerland. And a big shout out to Maxime Bowden from Switzerland. I miss you on my Twitch channel. And Maxime Bowden, like Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, both brilliant attacking players. Okay, so bishop d5. f4 is played now. And you'll see that the white queen hasn't got many squares. And all the pieces for white are maximised. They maximise their position for attack, right? Anyway, so white goes in here. He says, oh, I don't want to go back here to e8. It's too defensive. So I'm going to play queen here because I'm sick and tired of defending. I'd be happy to change queens, and I'd like to open up some attack with pawn takes pawn, or queen here and change queens or something like that. So he plays queen to d4, and now white just simply plays queen to e2 and attacks the queen. So the queen switches over to b4, and the whole idea is he wants to play pawn takes pawn. He wants to open up his castle so he can put pressure down there. But it's a bit slow, isn't it? White played queen to h5, and black resigned. There's no defence to queen takes pawn check. The position's busted. Okay. Queen takes pawn check is a mating attack. What could you do in that position? Well, if you played rook to f8, okay, if you played rook to f8, white could just simply play rook to h1. Rook here. And then, of course, the checkmate's coming again, isn't it? Right? Queen takes knight check. So there's no defence. And as you can see, white's got an extra piece, but it didn't help him. It didn't help him at all, did it? So what a masterful attack by Levon Aronian from a simple opening system. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed that game, and I'll catch you again after Christmas. It's been about 9 days since I last recorded a video for you, but God bless you. Merry Christmas, everybody, and I'll stream on Twitch tonight about 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's Sunday here in Australia at 2:10 p.m. Bye-bye, God bless, and I'll catch you again soon. Oh, by the way, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you like the video, okay? You can make comments about the video if you enjoyed it, and I try to reply to YouTube video comments. Bye-bye.